Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. In the last part, we, started off Tier 4 and got through most of it. And now we're in Ruination, the second of the Ruin-themed levels, which is actually the last of the Ruin-themed levels. I think I mentioned in a previous part that most level themes appear 3 times, but things like the Ruin theme and a couple others only show up twice. Either way, this level has 84 boxes, 49 of which are in its bonus area, and a gold relic time of 1:19 and 36 Also, kind of a dick move the developers did here. You see all these crates that were in a similar platter in the first one? Be careful because now they're nitro crates instead of standard crates. Although you actually don't need to hit this nitro switch, I believe. Because if I'm recalling correctly at least, if you hit the nitro detonator at the end of the level anyway, those will also detonate. And here's where we use our green gem, though if I'm recalling correctly, I remember reading at some point that during one of the trailers for this game, there was a stone signpost that led to an easy or hard path for this level. The hard path became the green gem route. You can actually reach this route without the green gem if you do the spin jump glitch I've been doing throughout the entire game. Now, I took one out a moment ago, but the green gem path in this level is very much comprised of the, these things. The log-throwing apes. And when they start throwing the logs towards the camera like this, they actually get really annoying to dodge, because for some reason, I can't quite figure it out due to some depth perception issues. Although they also like to throw in some of the other platforming elements from these stages along the way, like these moving platforms. Now, one thing I can't tell if it's an actual element or my brain just playing tricks on me like the cruel thing it is that for some reason, I think the rain in this level is supposed to lower your traction, make you slide around a bit more on platforms. But I don't think that's actually a thing. Like I said, I think that might just be my brain playing tricks on me. And I'm trying to remember if Insane Trilogy, aside from its slightly lower traction to begin with in some places, was playing that trick on me too. It might just be due to some other games that I played where rain lowers traction, but for some reason I always feel like that's supposed to be a thing. Either way, there is the bonus gem. Time to take a death and head back to where the green gem pathway is. Now, something I forget if you can do is actually just get over these platforms by doing a slide jump. I'm trying to remember if that's an actual thing, but I also just might be thinking of some speedrun trick due to the crash dash or something. Like I said a few parts ago, it's been about a year at this point since I last played Insane Trilogy, and some things about that in the speedrunning when that are a bit lost to me at this point. Either way, this bonus is interesting because, as I mentioned before, I think it has 49 boxes, which is the most boxes out of any bonus in the game. And if I'm recalling correctly, it's also one of the few bonus levels in the series that has more boxes in it than the main path of the game. I think there's a couple more of those in this game in particular, particularly later on, but it's kind of rare. And I think one of the Game Boy Advance games had something like that too. I'm having trouble remembering because it's been a while since I played either Huge Adventure or Entranced. But it's interesting, I suppose. You do need to be careful with your high jumps in this level, though, because obviously the locked boxes can only be destroyed by a ground pound, but you're not going to be able to hit them entirely unless you place yourself correctly, so be careful there. Which, mind you, I guess being careful is good advice in any Crash game, because even though Crash 2 onwards is easier than Crash 1, they still have their own degree of difficulty. Especially a better difficulty curve, but the main difference in difficulty, because Crash is just as killable as he was in Crash 1 from Crash 2 onwards, it's just the fact that the added ability to die in the levels while getting the box gem makes them feel easier. Though it helps that a lot of the levels aren't nearly as long to begin with. Plus, the hit detection is generally better from 2 onwards as well. Though, what was it? I want to say one of the Game Boy Advance games had some hit detection issues as well, but that's just because of different hardware or something. Now, I'm also thinking, I think this level has something a bit unique to it as well, and that I think it has some of the only standalone Aku Aku masks in the game. I know the only Aku Aku mask in a box that's not an Aku Aku box as it is normally is in Cold Hard Crash's secret route. I think that was just turned into an outright Aku Aku box in Insane Trilogy too. But yeah, it's always a bit odd thinking about that. Either way, now they're starting to get a bit interesting with these platforms, and I always have some issues judging where I am because the depth perception here is not exactly the best. Helps that you slide off the wrong way. Whoops. Either way, good luck missing this crystal. I do have to wonder, though, and this is purely conjecture, if there is theoretically a way to get through the game without getting the crystals normally. If I'm recalling correctly, there is a way to get gems otherwise. Like some weird combo glitch where, say, if you jump on enough enemies or boxes in a row, you eventually get Wumpa Fruit, 1-ups, and such. But I think if you technically go far enough, you can get gems and crystals as well. But I might be thinking of Crash 1 with that, honestly. Either way, that's Ruination. Has some tough platforming sections in it, especially on the green gem pathway. But if you've gotten this far, and you have enough lives, obviously, it shouldn't be too bad. But with that, we're on to level 20, the last level of Tier 4. And this is potentially one of the more annoying levels in the game. Welcome to Behaving. Or Behaving, as it is typed as, but yeah, you get what they're trying to say there. Either way, this level has 92 boxes, 32 of which are in the bonus. It has 2 extra ones added by changing, I think, some iron crates in the bonus to nitro crates. And the gold relic time for this is 1:22 even. And this is where they really try to throw the dirt at you from the previous, from digging it. And they actually start using the hammer lab assistant smartly. But the beehives here are a bit different than they were in digging it. They no longer throw out a single bee. They throw out a chain of maybe 4 or 5 at a time. Well, that was dumb. However, something you could do with the bees is that if you do a slide into a spin, basically by pressing circle and then square, which I think is actually one of the faster ways to move in the game, if you take out enough bees in a row, you can actually get an extra life doing that. In fact, that's actually how I grinded myself up some lives when I needed them in the Insane Trilogy. Though I think notable when it comes to doing that, it needs to be an outright spin, not like the spin I just did there, or if you get damaged during it, like, say, losing an Aku Aku. Which, yeah, fair. Now, I think this is another one of those levels that during the bonus round... Oh, by the way, the bee sting death animation I've always just found funny for some reason. I want a plushie of that. Now, if I'm recalling correctly, as I was saying, this is one of those levels that you can somehow find a way to die while the bonus box count's being tallied up and therefore get more boxes than there are total in the stage. So I guess if you're having a hard time getting stuff done, you can do that. And something interesting about the beta version of the game, although this is a very minor thing, is that the dirt you could dig into in these levels was gray instead of magenta. I guess they made it magenta just to stand out more. These nitro crates aren't bouncing. That's important because you can jump on them and not die, which leads you to the secret room. However, there's no boxes for us along this pathway, so we just need to get our special treasure here and then leave. Though it's actually a return of the rats from Turtle Woods, which is kind of a weird time to bring these guys back. By the way, a very important thing is here, we have the purple gem. I think that's the last of the colored gems in the game too, so I'm just going to get hit by that bullet and leave. Notable though, and I forget if it was just outright earlier versions of the game or otherwise, those nitro crates were a bit different. They were composed of real nitros, they just wouldn't explode if you jumped on or walked on them. However, spinning, sliding, or body slamming would still kill you. And you can see their chain of thought there, try to trick the player a little bit more, but if they get suspicious, check it out. Because I think there were also Wumpa Fruit on top of the nitro crates, which I guess was their way of telling you that you could get on them. But ultimately, I think changing them so they wouldn't explode ever was the better decision, because that just prevents anything stupid from happening. And seeing all those nitro crates reminds me, I think this is the only level in the game that actually has more nitro crates than there are any of the other kinds of crates combined. Which, actually, I think about it, I've actually never tested this out. I wonder if you actually, when you detonate the nitro detonator towards the end of the level, if you come back to where the secret pathway is, I wonder if those nitro crates detonate or not. Because I think they're technically considered a separate entity. But, I should check that out sometime. And maybe next playthrough, whenever that may be. It's not that important. Now, the good thing about spinning into the dirt like that is you have a lot of invincibility frames while you're doing it. So, say the lab assistant with the hammer tries to hammer you or beast try to sting you, you're invulnerable. And I very much appreciate that. Part of this level does become just trying to outrace the bees. But you need to be careful, because if you do something stupid like hesitate too long, like I'm about to, or get into the dirt too early, that can lead to you dying in stupid ways. Like I remember my practice run, I got stung by bees there because I was being stupid. It's a pun. Either way, that's behaving done. Yeah, I'd say it's probably one of the harder levels in the game. Cold Hard Crash still takes the cake, but that's a fair kind of hard. Either way, that is the end of Tier 4, so once Crash finishes putting all the gems up there and doing his silly little dance, it's time for a cutscene and then our next boss fight.
Crash, I have discovered that the opposition is being masterminded by Dr. Nitrous Brio, the inventor of the Evolvo Ray. Brio was responsible for our misunderstandings in the past. He forced me to assist him in his plot for world domination, and he's at it again. He will attempt to stand in our way. Be on your guard, Crash. Use the platform to deliver the crystals to N.Gin.
Okay, I guess we know who we're fighting next. N.Gin kind of just comes out of nowhere in the series, honestly. He wasn't in the first game at all, then suddenly he's here in Crash 2. But he's also one of the more interesting boss fights in the game, too. He also has the most health. And during this boss fight, your slide is disabled because square, circle, and R1 all throw Wumpa Fruit out. And you need to throw them at whatever part of N.Gin's ship is opening up. Also, unlike Cortex or Brio, I don't think the N in N.Gin has ever been explained. Like, we got Nitrous Brio, Neo Cortex, so on and so forth. Either way, during the first phase, he likes to shoot lasers out of his two arms in varying patterns. However, honestly, there's nothing to really dodge about them. I think he tries to get a bit more speedy with his arm movements when he only has one laser left. But otherwise, just shoot the Wumpa Fruit when it's open, and you are good. Phase 2, or I guess technically Phase 3, is where things get a bit more annoying, because we now need to shoot his very small shoulders when they open up, which, actually, now that I look at it, that reminds me a lot of the first Star Fox. And he shoots missiles that rain down on the path in a few different ways. And by a few, I mean either focused on the left or focused on the right, and they alternate. When there's only one of his shoulders left, though, he changes up his pattern, in that he shoots all of his missiles, but only one reaches the platform, and it goes across the platform itself. From left to right, right to left, whichever, depends on the shoulder, I think. And I think the height can also vary, but yeah. Now, I'm trying to remember. I recall reading at some point that there's actually various routes that the missiles can take in this fight, and there are several paths that are unused for some reason. Doesn't really make sense to me. Either way, when he's firing is the best time to throw Wumpa Fruit at him, but thankfully he killed me at the last second. Great. During the final phase of the fight, he likes to pop out of nowhere and destroy whatever platform you're on, and then one of the other platforms. Actually, I think it's just in general pattern-based. However, you don't need to fear he doesn't destroy all three platforms, or at least he doesn't get a chance to, because the others will restore themselves. Just fire directly at the laser and jump out of the way, and quick timing, and you should be good. Although, if I'm recalling correctly, Naughty Dog would actually later reuse this green beam attack for a boss in Jak 2? 3? One of the two.
Master Cortex will be very displeased with your resistance. Prepare to suffer his wrath!
The Wrath of Cortex, you say? I'm not sure why they don't give a little cutscene with N.Gin before the fight. Instead, we just have to hear that afterwards, though. It always felt a bit weird. In fact, I think they changed that in Insane Trilogy.
What is your problem, Bandicoot? I will not ask you again to bring me the crystals! Obtain the remaining 5 crystals, Crash, and bring them to me!
Oh, Clancy Brown, your fake anger like that's always hilarious. Either way, welcome to Tier 5, the final tier of levels. And we start off with Piston It Away. Gee, I wonder what they're referencing there. First off, I love all of the music in the final tier levels. A lot of good stuff is here. But they also really like to throw really dangerous enemies at you. For instance, these enemies you can only destroy while sliding, and then there's these weird, almost kind of inverse spider-like enemies that you either have to jump on, slide into them, or when they eventually start shifting their positions, here they are, waiting to see where they are in their path to see if you have to jump on them or slide into them. As the name implies, though, the gimmick of Piston in a Way is the pistons themselves, which rise with certain patterns like timing. It's pretty self-explanatory. Either way, in terms of box totals here, there are 69. 24 of which are in the bonus, and 12 of which are in the death route. So we need to get through this level, at least until we get to the death route without dying. However, as usual, though, you can get on the death route, commit suicide, and then go through the main path again, and the death route will still be there no matter what. In fact, that's what I recommend doing, because getting through this level without dying is complicated, to say the least. There's a lot to watch out for in this level, and I think even quite a few deadly jumps. The gold relic timing for this in Insane Trilogy, though, is 1 minute, 23 seconds, and 33 hundredths, so I think that's... I'm trying to remember if that's actually fairly strict. I want to say it is. I think the 5th tier levels where they start to get really strict with the times. Now, something I do like about this level, or I guess this aesthetic in the levels, rather, design-wise, is that whenever something can kill you by burning, it always has the same color. Be it those enemies I need to slide into, these pipes you need to jump over, otherwise you get burned, or otherwise. I actually like that little consistency. It makes it feel like Cortex has a little uniform design mentality for a lot of his stuff. Which, being a scientist, I would assume he does, but who the hell knows with cartoon scientists, right? This is the checkpoint that if you know you get to, you're pretty much safe when it comes to getting the death route. Because not only is there an Aku Aku here, but the death route's also right there. So we're gonna need to waste a life to be able to go through the rest of the level first, but it's worth it. Also, I love the death route theme for this level. Now, I could swear I recall actually being able to just use the death route to go back down, but I might be thinking of something else. Also, I'm trying to remember. I swear there's some level in Insane Trilogy that they take away the ability to get onto a death route, die, and then still be able to access it itself. But I forget where it is. If they didn't do that in total for the game, I forget. Like I said, it's been a while since I played Insane Trilogy. Okay, see this enemy? Leave it alive because we need it to get back to the death route. And that arrow platform summons that little ray attack. That ray will shrink you and kill you, even if you have an Aku Aku, I believe. Though in the case you get hit by a shrink ray and then fall into the bonus, it'll act as if you died in the bonus and therefore not lose a life. The thing is about the shrink ray, and I forget this every time I play the game for some reason, is that while it looks like it's a completely unavoidable death sentence if you get hit by it, you can spin into it and take it and destroy it. So it is avoidable. I just always forget that because how can we spin away energy? I say as I just remember we do that exact same thing to damage Cortex in Crash 1. Shut up. Also, the bonus theme here is all sorts of silly, and I love it. For some reason, it actually reminds me of the Rugrats theme, and I can't exactly place why. Mind you, a lot of things remind me of Rugrats soundtrack for some reason. Also, I just realized they did something really smart with this bonus. They actually made the backtracking thing that you need to do in the stage itself to get 100% actually part of the bonus, too. Huh. I see what you did there, Naughty Dog, you tricky dogs, you. Visually, though, this is probably the level that always reminded me the most of Crash 1. Okay, that was dumb. I know I say that when there's jungle levels and such in the game and the stream levels, but for some reason, maybe just because machine levels kind of almost always have the same sort of look to them, it reminds me a lot of, what were the names of the machine levels in Crash? You know the ones I'm talking about. Castle Machinery, I think, was one of them and such. That's always a dangerous jump. These enemies will push you away. They're usually after this positioned right after pits, so they'll push you into them. But thankfully, if you just hit them once, you can chain hit them again to just get rid of them. Though, admittedly, it's always kind of funny when they kill you. Now, something you can do by abusing the Z-axis in the PlayStation version of the game is you might notice with the panels where the shrink rays are, by the way, that is the last of the boxes in the level, because right over here is the main exit. Now we can actually backtrack to the death route. The thing is, you might notice how they have those little black strips around the edges. You can actually, if you walk generally above them, you can completely skip the triggers for the platforms themselves and just skip the effects in general. Also, this is why I didn't kill that enemy. You have to do that in N.Gin Trilogy, I believe, but in the PlayStation version, you can abuse the Z-axis to jump around that shrink ray and just get up to the other side by abusing the Z-axis, plain and simple. Covering around. That is something I think N.Gin Trilogy kind of ruined in a way of Crash, is thinking literally outside the box by using the Z-axis like that, because you can't do that in a lot of stages. And I can see why they did that, because in a way you're ignoring the design and challenge that the levels are trying to present you. But I also admire the ability to use the Z-axis to think outside the box and outthink the game in some ways, however unintentional it is. But that's just me, and even then, my thoughts on that kind of topic vary from game to game. Now they start getting tricky with these tentacle bots, because now we need to time jumping on them over pits, and I think the next jump over a pit, there's two of them next to each other. Oh, that's a one hell of a way to go. Shrunken and then murdered. Yeah, I always have trouble timing that jump first time around. Don't know why. It's just a consistency with me. I'll always screw that jump up the first time. And that's all the boxes. That's the crystal, that's the standard the death route gem, and the box gem all in one go. Though I've heard there's a freeze/crash related to this level. See what I did there? In one of the versions of the game that, like right before you get to the death route gem, the game will crash. It might only be in the beta version that people have found. I don't know. I'm not entirely familiar with all the beta stuff. I've read a lot of stuff over the years online, but either way, the final tier levels actually introduces a new gimmick, and we shall see so in Rocket. The gimmick of Rocket is, once the level loads, a rocket pack. Once we jump on into it, we go into zero grab, and controls change completely. Square is still spinning, X will push you forward, circle will make you go in reverse. Left and right still push you left and right, but you use flight controls for this, so up is down, down is up. And it always takes me a bit of time to get used to this in Crash 2. I think N.Gin Trilogy changed the controls here a little bit around. But either way, in terms of the stats for this level, it has, I want to say, 39 boxes. There is a nitro detonator in there somewhere, but levels like this don't have any bonuses, so you don't need to worry about that. And a gold relic time of 59 seconds and 55 hundredths. I think in N.Gin Trilogy, this is one of the few levels you can't play with Coco in, because that's the thing I think I mentioned even in Crash 1. N.Gin Trilogy allowed you to play as Coco through most of Crash 1 and 2, and she's denied these levels. I think same with the Polar levels now that I think about it. Which, I do want to say, well, that's the thing. You can actually get stuck in the geometry a little bit, so you need to kind of mess around with the controls until you get unstuck with the jetpack. I think this level has the least amount of boxes in the game. But technically, counting the ones that explode beforehand, Totally Bear has less boxes. That's a bit of a weird thing, too. The sound effects like to cut out here sometimes. I don't know why. I think it's just due to the amount of sounds going on through, like, the jetpack and such. I always have some trouble judging when I should go through these obstacles, though. They always alternate in lasers that connect two diagonal ways and then a cross section. And I always get nervous when I'm around them, so I always have some trouble timing myself. And now we have electric lab assistants. They're very similar to their cousins in Crash 1, actually. I think they were in one of the castle theme levels that had the slime. But they're a lot easier to dodge here because you don't have to rush yourself. The cables are a bit annoying to dodge sometimes because I actually don't know where their hitbox begins and ends. The exposed wiring is obvious, but I'm not sure where it goes beyond there. Now, I believe it was added to the US version of this game, but I know for a fact it's also an N.Gin Trilogy. There is an option in the options menu to invert your flight controls here. So instead of up being down and down being up is up and down is down. And I know some people prefer that control scheme for flight controls, but at this point, I'm so used to it, thanks to games like Star Fox, that down is up and up is down. It just feels like a second nature to me. It takes some time to get used to it in this game after holding up for up and down for so long, but you get used to it pretty quickly. And honestly, I know the fan base in general, from my experience, is very split on these levels. Some people really like them, like myself. Others think they need a lot of fixing. Honestly, I can see both arguments. I like them myself on the whole, though, just because it's a good kind of gameplay shift, and it's not too intrusive, because you're still getting boxes and all that. It's not like you're suddenly... what's a good sudden shift? In a race game, in a game about thieves, or in a game about thieves. Looking at you, Sly One. Either way, that's 39 boxes thanks to the Nitro Detonator. That is our box gem, and that is Rocket. Has some tough stuff in it in terms of learning the controls and dodging some of the stuff your first time around. But on the whole, it's probably the easiest level in Tier 5. I'd say if I were to estimate it around a general tier's difficulty, I'd say it would probably fit right in with Tier 2. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in Part 7, we're going to be starting off Night Fight, before seeing what the rest of the game holds for us. See you guys then.